Many on the right are melting down at Vice President-elect J.D. Vance announced that he will not be backing pardons for violent MAGA rioters.
I think it's very simple. Look, if you protested peacefully on January the 6th and you've had Merrick Garland's Department of Justice treat you like a gang member, you should be pardoned. If you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. And there's a little bit of a gray area there, but we're very much committed to seeing the equal administration of law. And there are a lot of people, we think, in the wake of January the 6th who were prosecuted unfairly. We need to rectify that.
You know, it's kind of funny. You could successfully argue that some of the people, Proud Boys, were actually members of a gang, although, of course, you'd never hear that, especially from our law enforcement, which basically, it basically says if you're white, it's a militia, not a gang, but if you're black, of course it's a gang. So, okay, sure, right? But here's the thing. You have peaceful protesters. You did have some of those peaceful protesters on January 6th. Not kidding. Then you had the people that did the misdemeanor trespass that went into the building, okay? And then, of course, you had the violent insurrectionists that beat police officers, did vandalism, things like that. Now, J.D. Vance is saying, well, you know, look, if you did a criminal misdemeanor trespass, okay, then, yeah, you should be pardoned. But he drew the line at the violent ones. Oh, okay, wow. Now, that would include the several hundred who were accused of using deadly or dangerous weapons like fire extinguishers, bear spray, flagpoles against police officers, okay? And so far, more than 120 people were charged with using a deadly or dangerous weapon or causing serious bodily injury to an officer. 11 were charged with assaulting a member of the media or destroying their equipment. So, yeah, that's assault, that's vandalism, all that stuff. So, okay, mainly the violent ones who did those things, they received substantial prison sentences, okay? This is not a case where you had the police corral a bunch of peaceful protesters, round them up, throw them into prison, all right, and overcharge them. What you're thinking of in that case would be Black Lives Matter, okay, where a lot of that did actually happen. Okay, where you had reporters, for example, that were corralled up alongside, you know, peaceful protesters, people who didn't actually get involved in the riots, which was an incredibly small part of Black Lives Matter. There were millions and millions of people that protested peacefully, and then a few, some of them, you know, might have been right-wing infiltrators, caused some trouble. But overall, 97% of all the Black Lives Matter protests were peaceful. So there's that. All right. That's the reality. Now, that said, getting back to J6, prosecutors said that they opted not to charge individuals who were merely protesting outside the Capitol that day. Nonviolent protesters. They instead focused on those who entered the building, which is criminal trespass. Now, I'm not saying everybody who entered the building did violence, right? Of course not. But there was some who did vandalism. There was theft, stealing the podium and Nancy Pelosi's laptop, you know. And of course, there are others that walked around filming and others that just walked around and, I don't know, talked to people and, you know, raided the muffins while swearing that they were protecting the muffins. So the idea that there's a bunch of innocent J6ers sitting around in prison is not true. In fact, the punishments more often than fit the crime here. Okay, Alexis Loeb, a former federal prosecutor who helped lead the Capitol attack investigation until last October, said she stood by the cases, okay, that have been adjudicated, and over 1,100 of them have been already, and noted that they were based on a uniquely large amount of evidence. What evidence, you say? Evidence that was taken from the J6ers themselves in the form of videos that they live streamed. While she declined to discuss any individual case or internal Justice Department deliberations, Loeb said, these were prosecutions that were staffed by career employees, and the cases had a remarkable amount of evidence given all the video that was taken that day. Yes, live streaming yourselves doing crime, or to be fair, live streaming yourself or other people doing crime. Yeah, that would be evidence, right? That said, all that, right, to give you context, showing that what should be a win for MAGA, letting people go who did misdemeanors, okay, but not letting people go for the violence, obviously, still a win for them, okay, for some of these J6ers. Apparently, it's not enough for some of them. No, of course not. You're not going to be surprised it's the ones who did violent stuff. An ex-account purporting to represent Jake Lang, who's incarcerated in D.C., while awaiting trial on charges that he beat police officers at the Capitol, so I have to say alleged, right? He allegedly posted a lengthy message addressed to J.D. Vance, writing in part, the J6 hostages' families have been crushed by the mixed messaging coming from the White House on the J6 pardon process recently. We are utterly confused. We have been waiting 4 years for this moment, and now it seems like your administration is going to possibly leave some of our brothers behind to rot away in the gulag for the next 10 to 20 years. In the gulag, everybody. He also falsely claimed that all insurrectionists were set up and trapped by the FBI, even though that there's absolutely no evidence in that, and falsely claimed that all of them were protesting peacefully. Wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense, because if you were entrapped, you would have to be doing the violence in order for them to actually arrest you. And again, got you on video, right? A lot of people had this, they were on video doing the crimes, doing the beatings, all that stuff, doing the vandalism. And so you're going to say that you were set up, though, but you still did it, though. Even if that were true, you still did it. So, but it's not true. It's not true. That's the thing. And so, but again, since you did do it, you weren't exactly protesting peacefully, were you? But he said, Mr. Vice President, there's only one solution. Bring all our J6 POWs home. No man left behind. Day one full pardons and clearing of the prisons. POWs, everybody. You're only a POW if there's a war. What war was there? If you were peacefully protesting, then you weren't exactly involved in a war, were you? So you couldn't really be a POW. Yeah. They don't make any sense. Again, no evidence that there's Fedception, all right? No, here's the thing about the feds. They were too complacent, okay, when it came to the threat of right-wing violence. They didn't believe all the warnings that showed the far right was planning January 6th. So, I mean, that's kind of a big blind spot for law enforcement is right-wing violence. They love to ignore that and focus on what left-wing violence is there? Not a lot. So they have to make it up. Okay, but there's more. In another post on X/Twitter, someone identifying themselves as a January 6th survivor, if you were all peaceful, why are you a survivor? Philip Anderson, the same name as someone facing felony and misdemeanor charges for his actions that day, alleged Vance's comments were hypocritical, writing, telling your own supporters that the election was stolen and then not giving them a pardon or commutation after you sent them into what you call a Fedsurrection and trap is a betrayal. All the J6 defendants must be saved. J.D. Vance is wrong, and I hope Trump will save his own supporters. Man, bro is so close to figuring it out. He's so close, but so far away. He's like, telling your own supporters the election was stolen, not pardoning them. Oh, man, what a betrayal. No, the original betrayal is the fact that he lied about the election being stolen. The election was not stolen. And so he lied, and then, boom, you guys went out there and did a bunch of crime. I mean, you're so close. So close. And the point of, Trump, and some of the Jack Smith charges that, unfortunately, we're not going to see that go to trial because Donald Trump's going to be president now. Well, we're not going to see that adjudicated. But, I mean, he did lie to everybody. And that was the point. That said, Vance after getting some backlash, of course, took to Twitter to grovel for forgiveness. He said, "I've been defending these guys for years." He then claimed that there were feds in the crowd. Again, no evidence of that. Writing, "Did they get a pardon? I don't think so." But he also wants you to know that this is not a walk back. Oh, no, of course not. Quote, "The president saying he'll look at each case and me saying the same is not some walk back. I assure you, we care about people unjustly locked up. Yes, that includes people provoked. And it includes people who got a garbage trial." I wish they actually really did care about people being unjustly locked up, because then they would look at, all the people that are still in prison for drug crimes. And that's just one example, right? Okay, but here's the thing. I don't believe that they actually care about people being unjustly locked up. And they also don't really care about being the party of law and order. They say that they are, but they're really not. I mean, did you know that some of the Jan 6 convicts who have been sentenced have prior criminal records? Which includes about 41 people who have been convicted of at least one violent crime prior to their actions on January 6th. So, now, a CBS News analysis also found that at least 10 people convicted for their roles on January 6th also carry past convictions for domestic violence offenses prior to January 6th. Wow. And at least 4 have faced sex crime allegations. Yes. But yeah, we're going after the groomers, everybody. Sure you are. Law and order. Oh, sure. Again, you've got Donald Trump talking about wanting to allow these violent criminals with criminal histories to be released back onto the streets. And yet, they're completely blind and oblivious to their own hypocrisy. In what is a little bit of a twist, a former Capitol rioter and ex-MAGA supporter who served her time for her actions on January 6, 2021, is now refusing the president-elect's offer for a pardon. This is 70-year-old Pamela Hemphill, who pleaded guilty to charges related to the Capitol riot. She went off on social media about her thoughts on the prospective pardon for the J6ers, saying, I will refuse a pardon from felon Trump. Oh, and there you go. I mean, by the way, Donald Trump is a felon. Just because he didn't face any actual consequences on the record, especially when it comes to that one case that was actually pursued and that he was found guilty of. That was the election interference, hush money, scandal case. Yeah, he is guilty. He's a convicted felon. And unfortunately, because you have presidential immunity as president of the United States, he doesn't actually face any real charges, any real consequences for doing that. But on the record, technically a felon. Now, Hemphill, who was, by the way, being treated for breast cancer at the time of the riot, was spotted, and this is her crime, pushing past police lines 3 times when the attack was underway, and was later seen inside of the rotunda telling fellow members of the mob, come on in, come on, have fun, this is your house. Okay, well, no, technically not. I mean, we're supposed to be represented there, but like, it turns out that, if it was really our house, we could come in anytime we want. That's obviously not the case. You can't just barge in uninvited and then start trashing the place. All right. And by the way, if you do treat your house like that, that doesn't look so good on you, right? The way that they treated the Capitol building, which was filled with smeared poo, and smashing of windows and walls and vandalism and all that stuff. So yeah, not so good. Now, after about 8 months after that day, the FBI came to her door. And, well, at the end of the day, she ultimately pleaded guilty to 1 count of demonstrated picketing or parading in a Capitol building in federal court. So back in 2022, and was sentenced to 2 months behind bars, 6 months of probation, and a $500 restitution. She served 60 days in Dublin, California. And during her sentencing, she apologized for, quote, everything I said and did at the Capitol. And you know what? She meant it. That's great. Now, in 2023, however, Trump posted about her case, tried to compare her to Hunter Biden, who, by the way, just got his own pardon. Now, Hemphill responded to the former president's post on X saying, please, Donald Trump, don't be using me for anything. I'm not a victim of Jan 6. I pleaded guilty because I was guilty. Hashtag stop the spin. She also told the Daily Beast at the time, saying, quote, I mean, I was trespassing. I had a choice. I could have left. I have respect for her. Okay. She admitted what she did wrong, took her punishment, and then broke with the people who misled her into being there in the first place. Yes. And again, took responsibility. That takes a lot to do. And again, I respect that. Now, during that interview with the Daily Beast, Hemphill also revealed that she had cut ties with MAGA several months prior, saying, quote, you don't see it as a cult when you're in it. You don't recognize it. Which is true. I mean, that's why it's very difficult to get people out of cult thinking, right? Because they never, no, I'm not in a cult. I'm free. What are you talking about? No. So, yeah, it's hard. Now, after her release, she then explained how she got out. She said that family members had staged a political intervention. Now, this is important and resonated with her because guess what? That's what she did. She helped recovering addicts in the same way. And so when they did an intervention for her, she understood. And again, credit to her family, right? Because instead of cutting her out and cutting her off, they talked to her. They got her to realize what was going on, what she was doing. They said, Pam, you're in a cult. You really need to get out of that. We really care about you, but this is a cult. You're trapped in a cult. I mean, it sounds easy, right? But again, she had to be someone who went through, some prison time, and then was like, "Oh my God, you're right. Holy crap!" And then, of course, being away from that kind of helps you realize, "Oh, you're right. This is what's going on." She then, of course, noticed other things like Trump's narcissistic behavior, and was like, "Wait, this is gaslighting. This is not true." And again, that's basically in response to all the crap that Donald Trump constantly spews. Okay. She also said that I never liked how he talked to people anyway. He's rude. He's very mean to people. Yeah, absolutely. Indeed he is. Of course, there are people that didn't care how mean and nasty he was to people because he was mean and nasty to the people who they were told deserved it. But, apparently, look, she was able to break out of it. So that's great. And I love that. Now, getting to the present here. Now, she had responded online also saying this, quote, I'm not going to be bullied by MAGA anymore, as those who went as far as calling my probation officer to get me in trouble backfired on them, thinking I would stop speaking out, just giving me more confidence to continue. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty gross of people to do that, to try to get her in trouble because they now disagree with her. What was that about cancel culture? That I thought they didn't like cancel culture. Interesting. Look, she's not the only former MAGA person who realizes that they've been duped. And it's good when you see people that finally are able to break out of that. Sadly, of course, there hasn't been enough of them. Credit to them, of course, for speaking out. But unfortunately, like I said, we're kind of stuck with this now. I mean, Donald Trump reelected, given another 4 years. I mean, and this time with a small amount of the popular vote. Yes, more of the popular vote. I mean, it's absolute disaster. But on MAGA, supporters, I can only hope that enough people realize what the movement is. It's not what you think. Okay, they have been lied to. They have been used, and so I hope more people will continue to realize that. And look, I understand that in a lot of cases, it's going to take people getting hurt, and I don't like that. I don't like to see people get hurt, financially and things like that. I know that there's going to be a lot of leopards eating a lot of faces over the next 4 years. And I hope that from that, you have more people that start to break out of the cult and push back just like she was able to. That is my ultimate hope, and we'll see if hope survives over the next 4 years. Donald Trump's former chief of staff, Steve Bannon, has it out for tech bro Elon Musk. In an interview with an Italian newspaper, Corriere della Sera, Bannon said that he will be getting Elon Musk kicked out of Donald Trump's inner circle before Trump even takes office. Now, as of this time, there's like a week to go. So, here's his quote. I will get Elon Musk kicked out by the time he's inaugurated, Bannon told the outlet. He won't have a blue pass with full access to the White House. He'll be like everyone else. Okay, how are you going to accomplish this feat exactly? I don't know. As much as I'd love to see it happen, I'm not exactly sure Sloppy Steve can pull it off. Just saying. Now, look, if you're unaware as to why this is happening, let us go down the rabbit hole, okay? They have been fighting over H-1B visas, not just Musk and Bannon, but it's a representation of, you've got the anti-immigrant diehard MAGAs versus the new tech bro MAGAs, all right? So now, the H-1B visa issue, basically it allows guest workers to come in and work in so-called specialty occupations, which require the visa applicant to have at least a bachelor's degree or its equivalent, right? So they are bringing over people who generally tend to work in tech, okay? Math, engineering, technology, those are the ones that hold a lot of these visas. Now, thing is, in a lot of cases, these foreign workers end up getting paid less than their American counterparts, or they have their immigration status tied to their employment, which gives their bosses a lot of power over them, so that they don't complain about working conditions, so that they don't, collectively bargain. They don't have the ability to do so. They're just guest workers. And they have limited job mobility. If they don't like the place that they're working at, they can, but it's very difficult for them to change jobs to go to a different employer. And so there's a lot of power that these bosses have over these employees, which they don't have over American employees, who are, by the way, just as smart, just as capable, obviously. Now, I think the program needs a major overhaul, right? So that the foreign workers cannot be exploited by their bosses, who want to essentially pay less and have more control over their employees, okay? Because look, American workers, they, get paid better, and desire a more, robust work-life balance, to which some of these employees that come over from India don't necessarily have or don't necessarily strive for. They're there, they make as much money as possible, which is still a substantial amount of money, obviously, because they are educated and they are, desired, right? but it's less than an American worker would make. And again, less work-life balance. And so this is something that employers have been exploiting for quite some time. That said, both Musk and Bannon, they do not see eye to eye on this issue for different reasons. Now, obviously, Elon Musk is a fan of the H-1B program, right? And he's a fan because he wants to bring in people that he can pay less and control more. That's it. I mean, that's what it boils down to. I mean, he could say like, oh, no, it's because we don't have enough educated workers in the United States. That's it. Oh, but you don't want to pay your taxes to invest in education. Got it. And you want to support a party that wants to destroy the Department of Education, not do, free college and things like that. So, yeah, no, that's, basically billionaires have made it so that we don't have as much of an educated workforce. And when we do, it leaves a lot of the people that have those educations drowning in debt. So obviously they want to get as much money as they can, but they also don't want to work, 60, 70-hour weeks all the time and get burnt out. So there's a lot of burnout in the tech sector. So that's it. Musk's reasons, purely economic, right? Now, Bannon has a more ideological problem with H-1Bs. Okay, number one, he's super anti-immigration, especially super anti-Indian immigration. So one of his favorite books is Camp of the Saints, right? Where the so-called hero of the story is someone that goes around murdering Indian immigrants. So, yeah. Now, that said, there's other reasons for Bannon to be against this as well. He sometimes says things that are populist. Like, for example, he said, well, why don't we raise taxes on the rich? Whoa. Okay. But that said, at the end of the day, remember, this guy does not see immigrants as human beings. Okay. It's a pretty racist worldview. And Elon Musk, by the way, kind of shares that view in a way because he doesn't see his workers as humans. Human capital stock. So that's kind of the difference between tech MAGA, which again sees these immigrant workers as, oh, cheap labor I can exploit, and MAGA, right-wing MAGA, anti-immigrant MAGA, racist MAGA, whatever you want to call it. They're just like inferior, hate them. Okay, so that's the crux of the disagreement, right? And it's coming to a head. Musk versus Bannon. Now, here's the thing. They're both vying for Trump because Trump's the leader of the party, right? The leader of MAGA. So either Donald Trump agrees with the MAGA anti-immigrant faithful and gets rid of Musk and at the very least reforms H-1B, or he alienates the Bannons and Loomers of the world in favor of Musk and his big money. Gee, I wonder which one Trump will choose. I already believe I know the answer, but yeah, I can't be 100% sure, but I think he'll choose the money. That's it. And by the way, I'm also not discounting the fact that he could find a way to thread the needle. He could. But to me, I believe that Donald Trump's first and only concern is the money. How do I personally profit from this situation? And of course, he already knows how to personally profit from H-1Bs because he hired a bunch of people on H-1Bs. Okay? So he's a lot of staffer at Mar-a-Lago. All right? And so this is a situation where, wait a minute, if I'm forced to hire American, I don't have to pay higher wages. Oh, I don't want to do that. Blah. So there's more, right? After some pushback, Musk had backtracked on some of his, criticism of people who like Laura Loomer, who were very upset at him for supporting H-1Bs. And he's like, okay, well, fine, let's reform it a little bit. But that's not enough for Steve Bannon or Loomer saying, oh, no, you don't. No. Now, first, he had called Musk a MAGA convert. And he's like, you know what you need to do? You need to sit back and study. All right. We love converts, but the converts sit in the back and study for years and years and years to make sure you understand the faith and you understand the nuances of the faith and understand how you can internalize the faith. And they say they're not in a cult. No, I get what he's trying to say. He's trying to compare this to, you can't just convert and then start telling people what to do when you convert to a new religion. I just find it very interesting, the example that he uses. Okay. But he says, don't come up and go to the pulpit in your first week here and start lecturing people about the way things are going to be. If you're going to do that, we're going to rip your face off. Now, here's the thing, though, right? So Bannon's talking a pretty good game, okay? And he's a broken clock, and he and Laura Loomer, broken clocks, okay? But look, at the end of the day, though, Donald Trump still sided with Elon Musk because Elon Musk dumped like $250 million into Trump's campaign, of course. Now, here's what Trump said. Quote, I've always liked the visas. I've always been in favor of the visas. That's why we have them. Now, look, that interaction was not the end of it. Bannon referenced that in his recent interview with the Italian newspaper, saying this, quote, he, as in Musk, suffered a major defeat in America on H-1B visas. He derided our movement as racist, and there's the R slur, and he lost. He said that Musk has the maturity of a child. That's true. He has tried to change the conversation after losing credibility in the United States and the fact that, frankly, people around Trump are tired of him. And that's true. People around, people around Trump are tired of Elon Musk. He keeps butting in. Even Trump's starting to get annoyed by him. But it keeps going back to the money. He put a ton of money into Donald Trump that helped him win. And so it's one of those things where it's like, the guy's annoying the crap out of me, but he's got cash and I can use him. So, there it is. It's so telling, by the way, this next quote. Bannon says of Musk, he is a truly evil guy, a very bad guy. I made it my personal thing to take this guy down. Before, because he put money in, I was prepared to tolerate it. I'm not prepared to tolerate it anymore. And why do I say that's telling? The quote here that I want to pay attention to is, he put money in, so I was going to tolerate it. I mean, right there. That's the right wing in a nutshell. Okay. After Donald Trump won with Musk's money, now Bannon is bringing the pitchforks. This is why MAGA is never actually going to be populist. Why right-wing populism never really takes shape. Okay? The leaders of these right-wing so-called populist movements will always take the money from the billionaires and then do what the billionaires want. That's it. It's usually just a grift. Now, I wish that the MAGA faith will figure it out, but they never will. They never do. Bannon and Loomer, as I keep mentioning, broken clocks, right? They have had some broken clock, moments as of late, where it's like, oh my God, did you realize the corporations are buying our politicians and telling them what to do? And that the billionaires are buying our politicians and telling them what to do? Yeah, but I don't think that they'll ever really fight against the real problem, because they're fine with billionaires when they're on their side and agreeing with them, okay? The real issue, of course, is money in politics. Get rid of the money, get rid of the corruption. Okay. Now, of course, the problem there is if the right wing does that, the Republican Party, they're going to lose their advantage, because their only advantage is we've got pretty much all the billionaires. Okay. Not all of them, but we got a vast majority of them. And, they're running think tanks, and they're putting out ads, and there's super PACs and dark money everywhere. Right. Now, that said, Democrats, if the Democrats go against money in politics, guess what? Well, they're going to lose something too. They'll lose their excuse to not do popular progressive policy because it would make their donors and consultants very sad. So they have a corruption, money, and politics problem too, which is why you don't see the party going in the direction of, even though some are admitting it, oh yeah, the Bernie Sanders, oh, looks like he might have been right on a lot of things. Oh, weird. Maybe we do need to do more populist progressive policy. You got even James Carville saying, James Carville, one of the biggest Bernie haters out there. And there's so many. Maybe he's not one of the biggest, but certainly is one that comes to my mind off the top of my head. Is there are so many. But he's like, oh man, maybe Bernie Sanders kind of right. Maybe we should have done some of the stuff that he was talking about. Because look, the Harris campaign, with, I think, the exception of the Walz pick, which I think was fantastic, generally went in a centrist establishment direction, and not in the way of economic progressive populism. But anyway, at the end of the day, the root problem that I'm trying to point out is that it's not really red versus blue. It's always been the 1% versus you. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.